The science and all experts are in complete agreement that we are just at the beginning stages of this fight against COVID.
I'm actually also an expert, and I slightly disagree with you.
Really sorry about that.
So
we are all really in agreement. So anyways,
sorry, do you mind if I... What are you doing? No. I just came to a slightly different conclusion based on the data.
Take a look at this.
They pulled my funding. You changed your opinion on this also? It's just the way you talk about the alternative.
That's literally how some scientists are settling their disputes, and wow, that video perfectly represents what's happening right now, especially with the latest current events that we're going to be talking about in this video. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings, to wearechange.org. A lot of absolute nonsense to get into, as the U.S. government just announced it's running out of money, and it's going to get its pound of flesh from you with its absolute ridiculous plans that it has for average, everyday human beings. There's also some very troubling developments surrounding YouTube, this very platform that we are on, that we're going to be getting into in this video, that luckily still hasn't figured out how to censor satire, because if they did, they would most likely ban Ryan Long and the excellent comedic satirical videos that he does on his channel, which is linked down in the description below. And I think his latest video definitely hit the nail on the head with what's happening right now. And just jumping into it right now, the world's financially richest country in the world has just announced that it is running out of money, as U.S. Treasury Secretary and former U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman Janet Yellen announced that the federal government will run out of cash by October 18th, which she says will lead to a default that could be, quote, catastrophic. And this is from a nation and a leader that literally helped build a $28.8 trillion debt, a country that spends more on the military-industrial complex than almost the rest of the world combined, and a country that just passed a $1 billion expenditure for an Israeli military program. Yes, that country is now claiming to be running out of money. How's the country going to pay for its ever-growing debt for its expenditures that it doesn't have money on? Well, clearly the rational thing to do, the smart thing to do, is to stop spending as much as you do. A lot of what the government does is absolutely wasteful. It's top-notch bureaucracy. It's micro to middle management that doesn't need to be there. But that's not what this government is going to do. It's going to, of course, fleece its citizenry and take away more of their wealth with more planned taxes, restrictions, and regulations. As the Biden administration's Build Back Better plan, literally a World Economic globalist talking point, their Build Back Better plan includes charging Americans for every single mile that they drive. They propose to spy on American citizens to track, trace, and database every $600 transaction to make sure that the IRS is getting their money. And as of today, we're also finding out that they're planning to fine companies $70,000 to $700,000 for not complying with their absolutely ridiculous, over-the-top, and draconian mandate passport system that many people accuse them of being in the initial phases of an American social credit score. But yes, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, just announced that if companies don't comply with his mandate for all employees of companies with over 100 people to either take a medical procedure or be tested weekly, if they fail to do that, fines on private businesses could run as high as $70,000, and allegedly serious infractions will be $700,000. This provision was literally sneaked into the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. I love how they call it a reconciliation bill. The government doesn't have enough money. We're going to spend $3.5 trillion now on top of all that, and we're going to call it reconciliation. But we're finding out right now that Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, quietly, under the guise of secrecy, hoping no one would find out, was the one that put in this provision, fining private businesses an extraordinary amount of money for not complying with the whims of the federal government, that she's the one that put this provision in this bill and then sent it to the House floor. And on page 168 of the 2,465-page mega bill is the tenfold increase in fines for employees that violate the latest federal government decree and executive order by the President of the United States. In my opinion, this is absolutely ridiculous. This is price gouging, to say the least, and to levy such fines against businesses, American businesses that are already struggling to survive, not only because of the globalistic pro-Chinese slave market incentivizing by the U.S. federal government, but also because of the government's lockdowns that have officially eviscerated capital for most Americans. Retail spaces, entertainment industries are reeling from the latest lockdowns that were imposed not by a sickness but by governments. Lockdowns that scientifically show had very little impact on the official case numbers, especially when you compare them to places that did lock down and didn't lock down. Lockdowns that, of course, only enriched the billionaire class, which will be the only ones able to comply with a lot of these mandates. Because when you look at a lot of the regulations, you see a lot of top-notch billionaires usually call for them. Why is that? It's because billionaires could comply with the regulations very easily. Their competitors that are rising can't. And it's another level of entry. It's another hoop that private businesses have to jump through in order to get through to actually be competition for this billionaire class. So who do these regulations truly at the end of the day help? Well, the federal government to have more money in its coffers, and of course their buddies, the billionaire class, that easily could comply with it while average people can't. On top of this, we also have inflation, which is the biggest tax created and right now helping facilitate the largest transfer of wealth that we're seeing in modern history. And with all of these things combined, this of course signals some major troubles ahead, which we've been warning people about, all exclusively on LukeUncensored.com for a very long time now, as we've been giving little tips and tricks about the oncoming uncertainty that a lot of us face. And if you want to be a part of that, definitely go check out LukeUncensored.com. It is our very own platform that we're going to be expanding, that we're going to be growing. Right now, you can get exclusive content that, of course, you can't get here on YouTube. A lot of content that we can't even produce on YouTube. All of it is exclusively on LukeUncensored.com. We have a lot of fun there. And in today's video, we're not only going to be talking about the latest shocking updates from Australia, but also the latest YouTube decisions, which are absolutely troubling. And because there's such a crackdown on YouTube, we're very happy that we have our own independent platform that we could still express whatever opinions we want without any fear of censorship or deletion. Now, I think what we just talked about is creating somewhat of a perfect storm situation for a lot of very significant troubles ahead financially, but also socially, because right now, the U.S. federal government is not only taxing the most it ever has, but also spending the most in comparison to a lot of its history. What is it doing with a lot of that money, with a lot of that new power, with a lot of that new influence, with a lot of that new domination of almost every aspect of our lives? Well, it's also using that money to punish U.S. Marines that tried to speak out against failed military leadership in Afghanistan, trying to hold them accountable, which has now led to former Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller not only to be kicked out of the U.S. military, but now also officially charged under 4 counts and sent to jail over posting YouTube videos. Yes, a U.S. Marine was just jailed for criticizing the top brass for their obvious, clear mistakes that they just committed in Afghanistan. And when Marine infantry officers and former battalion commanders are being taken away and arrested for their speech, this truly does signal some very troubling signs ahead, even for the people that are not politically motivated, as of course federal law enforcement's become more political, trying to keep an eye on political speech while ignoring actual crime that has gone up dramatically. And we should be hearing about this. There should be more of a conversation about this, but homicides in the United States went up 30% from just 1 year ago. 30% increase. The longest jump ever recorded from 1 year, increased about 30%. One of the highest estimates since the early 1990s, as violent crime is dramatically going up in the United States. Another important statistic to understand here is that a lot of these homicides were committed with physical violence, from fists, from kicks, from blunt objects, which the majority of which were committed with, and not, of course, firearms, which this administration is looking at restricting and regulating away from the general public. Rules and regulations that will predominantly affect law-abiding citizens from being able to defend themselves as crime is going up, and most likely will continue to go up, especially with all the federal mandates and labor shortages hitting the country, especially even local police departments, as we're hearing from all across the country that there's many police departments that will not be complying with the federal mandate that the Biden administration is putting on government agencies. And with many police officers being fired, put on leave, as happening in potentially Massachusetts very soon, this signals more troubling signs ahead. And it's not just the local police department that will be affected here. It's also airlines, as United is still threatening to fire hundreds of its staff and employees. New York is threatening to fire hundreds of medical professionals, frontline workers, nurses, and doctors, all because of a procedure that we can't even discuss here on YouTube. As YouTube just announced in very vague terms that it is officially delegating moderation enforcement policies through the medical, quote, consensus. What does that mean? What's going to be happening here? Well, already a lot of people are being censored, including other medical professionals, legal experts, and whether you agree with these individuals or not, science should always be discussed and debated freely. When it's not, it becomes dogma and unscientific. Whatever you may think of the individuals being banned right now, like them or dislike them, getting rid of the discourse, especially with the science, changing so fast, even through the official accounts, stopping real, honest conversations, at the end of the day, according to my own personal opinion, just hurts everyone. And I think this is an absolutely foolish move. And one reason why I am so happy with starting my own platform where we are able to discuss whatever we want without fear of repercussions. Discourse conversations should be honest, should be open, should be free. We as a nation are coming into some very troubling times ahead. The one thing that can help us, the one thing that could lead us out of misery, pain, suffering, is actually knowing what's going on, hearing both sides, both arguments being honestly discussed. And the fact that we can't have that here is an absolute pity. If anything happens to this channel, which it shouldn't, we follow all the protocols, we follow all the decrees to the most generalized point that YouTube gets out there, so we shouldn't be targeted here. But in case we are, just know that this won't stop us at all, and we most likely will be just exclusively releasing information on LukeUncensored.com only. Again, don't forget to sign up on our email list to hear about those very important notifications. We release a video almost every single day on LukeUncensored.com, by the way. We send out those videos to our email list as well as the latest videos. One of the best ways to stay in touch with us is just putting in your email. It's one of the sure ways to support and stand with independent reporting, journalism, and thinking. Think while you still can. I love you guys. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. If you like this video, click like. If you disliked it, click the dislike button. If you thought I was wrong in any way, shape, or form, let me know why in the comment section below. And truly, you guys literally just double-clicking that URL, sending it to random people, helps continue this channel still exist. We still get out there. We still spread very important messages, mainly because of you and your support, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. I love you guys. Stay tuned for a lot more here on wearechange.org.